So what is going on today, guys? Today we're going to be talking about what a blanket mortgage is. All right, so let's get started. So a blanket mortgage is pretty much a mortgage that allows for you to have multiple properties under one mortgage, right? So usually this is used by developers or by builders, where what they'll do is they'll buy a huge parcel of land, right? Have it put under one blanket mortgage and then have it severed off and then sold one piece at a time, right? So what you need to understand though is how a blanket mortgage differs from a regular mortgage is that if in a regular mortgage you sell the asset, the house, the condo, the whatever it is, you have to pay off the remainder of that mortgage, or you're going to end up transferring, aka porting it from one purchase into another purchase. So a blanket mortgage isn't used on one property, it's used on more than one property, multiple properties, right? So what it does is that instead of having, if you sell one property off, you have to pay off the entire mortgage. This mortgage actually makes a little bit more sense, because what this says is that instead of having to pay off the entirety of the mortgage just because you sold a part of the portfolio, you actually only have to pay back the mortgage on whatever that property was holding. So let's say, for example, let's just say you have 5 properties and their total worth is $5 million. Each property has 100% debt. Let's just use it for simplicity's sake. Each property has 100% debt, and what's going to happen is that let's say you want to give away, some properties because you want the mortgage or whatever it is. So you're going to be like, okay, I have 5 properties here. I want to give away 1 to my mom, 1 to my friend, and 1 to my kid. I want to keep 2. And you want to say, you know what? I want to give them back these properties. So, what's going to happen to my mortgage? In that scenario, what's going to happen to your mortgage is that instead of paying back the entirety of the mortgage, you're going to be paying back, instead of paying back the entirety of the mortgage, you're going to be paying back parcels and pieces of that mortgage. So if the total mortgage is $5 million and you've given away 3 properties, you're going to be free and released of $3 million worth of mortgage debt, right? So that's something called the release clause, which states that if you were to pay back some portion of any sort of total debt that you have under this blanket mortgage, you were released from any sort of liability involved within that. So you can pay off just that little portion and hold back the rest as a total mortgage still under that, whatever rate you had and whatever terms that you had prior. The difference between this and a regular mortgage is that the regular mortgage is going to have a clause that's called due on sale. And what that pretty much means is that as soon as you end up selling the asset, the remainder of the mortgage has to be paid back, or it'll be ported over, like I mentioned before, to a different property. And now if you want to look at this in certain ways where you want to be like, how do I use this as an investor, builder, so on and so forth, I'm going to go over that now. So as an investor, you'd use this to consolidate debt and have all of your finances in one place, so you aren't constantly closing out deals, paying off fees, having either them refinanced or fully closed off, and having points taken for each and every transaction, especially if you have a large portfolio. The same thing goes for if you're a flipper. You can consolidate everything under one blanket mortgage and have multiple properties in that. While you're creating equity in the property by doing renovations and waiting for them to be flipped, they can all remain under one blanket mortgage, right? It's much more easier to track. It's much cheaper on the transaction side, especially on the flippers, especially for flippers. And overall, it just gives you a better ROI. For developers and builders, what you're pretty much looking at is you're trying to pick up large parcels of land, severing them off into little pieces and having them sold individually after they've already been built, right? So you're not selling off the entirety of the mortgage, you're going to be selling off small little pieces, and then you can hold back whatever major prime locations you want to hold back, either for yourself or for future sale. You can end up actually keeping that as well under that same prior mortgage with those prior rates, so you don't have to keep closing out and then getting new mortgages. But yeah, this is it for blanket mortgage. If you have any other questions, feel free to give me a shout. Always like, comment, subscribe, and thank you. I'll see you guys next time.